And welcome back, guys, to another test review. Today it's your Harley Davidson, and today we're going to be getting on. At last, it's finally in the UK. We have waited quite a few months, probably about 6 weeks compared to the US. But today we're jumping on the Sportster 48 Special. And what you can see on this bike today is that we do have a stage 1 on it, so it's got a little bit more oomph, shall I say. But what I want to do is look at this bike, give you some feedback, and then compare it to the original, the one and only, the Sportster 48, and see what the difference is. As always, I say in every single one of my vlogs, I am not a motorbike expert, I am just a dude who loves to ride motorcycles, so take my opinion as an opinion, that's all it is. If you guys are interested in these bikes, then I'd highly recommend you get down to your local dealerships and jump on them and see what you think of them. But guys, let me know in the comment section if you have bought the Sportster 48 Special. What do you think of it? What have you done to it that's different? Or if you've bought the Sportster 48, the original, let me know what you've done to it. As I'm now coming into the swing of this review, let's now go into the difference and switch to a cinematic mode with my DSLR. Let's kick it. So, those are the visual aesthetic differences. So let's now get into what these bikes sound like. Now, as I mentioned, on the Special 48, we do have a stage 1 on it already. We've got the Screaming Eagle air filter, and we've got the chrome Vance and Hines short shots. So, let's start off with the Sportster 48. And just to let you know, guys, this has got a stock setup in 3, 2, 1. So that's the bike at idle. Let's give it a little bit of brap. And that's how it sounds in stock form. Now bear in mind, guys, if you do get the Special 48, it is going to have this setup. So let's now look at the Special 48 with the short shots on, and let's hear what this sounds like. So that's a big difference already, guys. Give it a bit of brap. To be fair, I actually really like the sound of that. But yeah, I think for me, let me just turn this off. For me, if I was purchasing a Harley Davidson, I always say this, but a stage 1 is definitely a must. So let's now jump on the Special 48. I think one of the things I'm definitely looking forward to is having a good understanding of what those Tallboy handlebars feel like as I'm riding around. If you guys have been following me for a while, then you know that on my, I hate to say this, my old Lowrider S bike, I had a nice set of tall handlebars, which for me felt better than having the flat or the stock bars. So I think this is going to be a winner for me. So jumping on the bike, first thing I noticed, and I think this is a big one for me, considering all the other Harleys that I've now been on, the bike, the Sportster, does feel super duper light. It is referred to a lot as a beginner's bike, although I don't 100% agree with that. What I do agree with is that a lot of people start their Harley Davidson journey on the Sportster. So in that thought process of the journey, then for me this would be a great bike to start on. It's got a relatively low seat height, which again I like. So now I've got myself set up, I've got my feet on the forward controls. For me that's always a big plus. I've done a lot of longer journeys on the Sportsters, and versus the mids, this is a great setup. One of the things that I'm noticing though, being really honest with you guys, is that this Screaming air filter is sticking out a lot. So I'm going to have to somehow consciously make sure my legs just sticking out if that's the correct English that I'm using. So coming into the controls of the bike, you've got these great Tallboy handlebars, and as I mentioned earlier, this is my preferred style. I'm 5'9", weigh 75 kilogram. Not that the weight will have reflection on the way these feel, but in terms of the handlebars, they're just below my shoulder line. So when you're doing longer journeys, then it just applies less pressure on the joints, on the muscles, so it's a better way to ride, in my opinion. Looking down below with my Speedo all covered in water, it's very simple controls, as with all the Harley Davidsons. It showcases how many miles you've done, your time, the gear that you're currently in. Nothing at all rocket science, but that's what I like about the Sportster. It is very much a stripped down bike. Then looking at the hand controls, you've got the cycle button over here by my thumb, so that gives you all the output down by the Speedo. Then you've got your horn, always a loud one on a Sportster. Whatever. Then you've got the headlights here, you've got your left indicator. And that's a nice feature, because as you're going round about and coming off it, it'll turn itself off, or self-cancelling indicators as we call them. You've got your engine stop start here, hazards, and then engine start. And then of course you've got your self-cancelling indicator on the right. Okay guys, as with all my Harley Davidson test reviews, we're going to be looking at its manoeuvrability, the power, the functionality of the bike. I think we've got to bear in mind today, guys, that the weather is absolutely gash, so I'm going to take it slightly easy, but at the same time and give you some qualitative feedback. So let's do it. So one of the things you should know, guys, is that I am a big die-hard Sportster fan. It's the bike that I started off on my Harley Davidson journey, and it's now the bike that I'm coming back to on my Sportster Harley Davidson journey. Next week I'll be making an announcement of which bike I'm going for, whether it's the Special 48 or whether we go for the Iron 1200. But already, do you know what, sitting on this thing, the way the Tallboy bars are set up, it feels cool. It's totally chilled, and that's why I love these bikes so much. It's not about how quick you go, or the power, or the technology advantages. God, it's got a Harley Davidson Evolution engine, for crying out loud, so this thing screams old school style. And then you just listen to that exhaust roar from the short shots. It's just cool. I absolutely love it. Now, one of the angles I like to approach this bike with in terms of would you buy this, for me it's, if you're a Sportster 48 owner, would you jump to this? If you're new, come into the Harley Davidson range, would you go for this? Now for me, the first thing you need to know is that the Sportster 48 RRP and the Sportster 48 Special RRP, with their baseline colours, come in at the same price. So straight away, I would go for something like this. And the reason why I can make that decision so quickly is I know how these bikes ride, and the handlebar setup for me is perfect. If I'm being really picky, the one thing that I'm not a massive fan of is the amount of chrome. You know, for me, I prefer that darked out look. But I could get that sorted if I go for this bike. The next question is, if I'm currently a Sportster 48 owner, would I go for this? And that's the challenging one. I think, in all honesty, I think there's going to be a no to that answer. But what this bike is here to do is bring in that new Harley Davidson rider, I feel. And I think even a lot of the guys that are watching this review at this moment in time, you guys, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, they're watching this because they're looking to come into the range. So usually I'd be tearing it around this roundabout, but unfortunately due to the weather, and probably a little bit of tyre questions as well, I'm not. But what I can say is that the lean angle on these bikes are pretty decent. I'm sure I'll have someone say, well, it ain't decent because it ain't a sports bike. And yeah, that's obvious, but for a cruiser this thing is absolutely perfect. Now we're just coming into the part of my test where we look at the acceleration of the bike. Woo! A little bit of backspin, and that's one of the things I love about these guys. That's a bit wrong. And that's one of the things I love about these bikes is that because they're so small in terms of versus the other Harley Davidson range, they're more forgiving if you make a little error, like a back wheel spin. You can keep it under control. So what I want to do now is that I'm just coming into a 60. I can't floor it, guys, because the tyres are just not going to have any traction. But I just want to you know, open the throttle up, see how she feels, try and get on a dry patch. And you know, the power is there. Always amazed now, since I had the dyno test on my lowrider, the difference when you put a stage 1 on with the brake horsepower, it does make a really good impact. I always thought it was just the noise and a tiny bit of performance, but it is absolutely the power aspect as well. And again, with that noise, it just makes me feel like I'm riding a man's bike. Coming into the 60s, one of the things I always think about in the back of my mind is that, what is the stopping power like on these bikes? And I'll be honest with you, throughout the whole Harley Davidson range, I've always had a bit of a bugbear, because I've always felt, and I know, the brakes aren't the best for the weight of the bike. I always felt that they should have Brembos on or an upgraded braking system to handle it. And the Sportster 48... And it was at this moment my microphone broke. I don't know the reason, guys, but I think it was due to the water that was taken on board. Bit of a shortage going on. So as I was saying, I feel that the Sportster 48 and all the other models in the Harley Davidson range need an upgraded braking system. The Sportster in itself is no different to the rest. Although it is a lighter bike, you still require, I feel, a double disc at the front. I've seen it on the Roadster. It makes a massive difference, and I feel with the Sportster 48 that would be a nice little touch. However, what I do go on to mention is that the beauty of having a Sportster is that you've got lots of customizing options that you can go for, and one of those is that you can upgrade the braking system on it. There's a huge selection out there, and again I go on to mention that, you know, you can do so much more than just the braking system in terms of the customization of the bike. So a lot of people ask me, what does the Sportster handle like? Obviously during today the weather was really poor, but as you can see we're going up to my favourite chicane, which is the famous pub I like going round. Obviously in today's weather it's super duper ropey, but for me the Sportster has always been such a great handling bike. I remember putting a 200 on the back of Goldie, my old Sportster, and still even with that wide rear tyre on, it was a great bike that I could chuck around. The advantage you've got as well with the Tallboy handlebars, that just improves the performance in terms of shifting that bike about. So overall for me the Sportster Special 48 is a great handling bike. One of the things that's really hard to describe to you guys now, because you can't hear me in this actual vlog, is just the excitement that I had of being back on a Sportster. Even though it was raining like absolutely crazy, the smile that I had was brilliant, and it's just reinforced that I want to get back on that Sportster absolutely ASAP. But what I want to do, because the issues that we've had with my vlog, I want to break it down in terms of what I like and what I dislike of the bike. In terms of what I like, for me it's definitely the aesthetics of the bike. I think the AMF style paint job on the peanut tank is really good. I think the look of the bike overall is really clean. I love the Tallboy handlebars. I think they suit the bike. I know people have some opinions around the lines of the bike, and I know for example Blockhead and John Maxwell aren't too keen on it, but that's the great thing about customizing the Sportster. Everyone's got a different opinion of what's good and what's not good. In terms of the functionality of the bike itself then, with the Tallboy handlebars, you know, on the day, same as my old Lowrider S, I felt I could really flick that bike about even though the weather was really, well, it was absolutely rubbish. In terms of the power of the bike then, you've got that 1200 Evolution engine, which is obviously a really old engine now, but it still packs quite a bit of power into it. I'd always stress that it's always a good option to go for the stage one, not only to make it sound more like a Harley in my opinion, but actually to get more brake horsepower out of it. Again, I talked earlier in the vlog about how I put a stage on my Dyna, and there was a massive difference in the brake horsepower of that bike. The other thing I was going to touch on as well is the actual steering of the bike and manoeuvrability. Obviously with that fork brace at the front and the larger wheels, and width wise, for me the Sportster 48 definitely had a better grip overall. Yes, people know that I complained about the Scorcher tyres. I still hold that opinion, and you can easily flick those tyres about and get some other ones, Avon Cobras etc, that you feel would be a better fit overall. In terms of the gearbox itself, we all know that Harleys are typically hard to get into neutral. On the day, there was always a positive transmission for me going from first upwards down to fifth and downwards. No issues there at all, which was good to see. So overall, I really liked the Special 48. I think back in the day, I think one of the negative things, which I'm going to move on to, I would have definitely said the peanut tank, but actually that for me holds the character of the bike. And if, for example, you're having issues with working out the distance you've got left in your Sportster 48, one of the things I always do is just hit the reset switch on the tachometer, and you can see you can start from 0 and basically you've got up until 70 miles till you've got to hit that petrol station really quickly. So it's a very easy thing to manage. So what I don't like about the bike is really simplistic actually. It's just the amount of chrome that was on the lower case of the engine, but you know, for me I can get that changed really quickly. And overall, that was the only thing that I didn't like about the bike. I thought it was a great, fantastic bike for what it is, and I actually think for a new person coming into the Harley Davidson range, this bike overall is the best value for money. So guys, that is it. That is me. I'm really sorry. I am so disappointed that my microphone failed right at the last 4 minutes of my vlog. However, it is what it is, and I can't go back and record because I'm away for a couple of weeks, and I've got the Sportster Iron 1200 to get on with, do the test review, and then we move into which Sportster I'm actually going to buy. But as always, thank you very much for watching my vlog. I really do appreciate it, guys. You guys mean a hell of a lot. But as always, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the flip side when I get this flipping microphone fixed. All the best, Motonewbrider.